the morning that was supposed to be their wedding day arrived. Silently, painfully. No music, no laughter, no decorations, no celebration. Just the dim light of a cell, the smell of iron, and the heaviness of a life interrupted. Ethan sat on the floor, staring at the wall. The date on the calendar mocked him. This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. Now look at me. He closed his eyes and whispered, "Amber, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Suddenly, a guard knocked on the bars. "John, up! You're wanted outside." Ethan frowned. Wanted? By who? He was escorted from the inner cell to the outer receiving area. He braced himself for bad news. Maybe further charges. Maybe a new accusation. But when he stepped out, his heart stopped. Amber stood there, in her full wedding gown, veil, bouquet, everything. Behind her was a priest, and two officers watched respectfully from a distance.
Ethan's eyes filled instantly. His knees weakened. "Amber, what are you doing here?" His voice broke. She smiled, the same smile that healed him years ago. "I'm here for our wedding." He blinked in disbelief. "Amber, why? Why would you still want to marry me? Here, now, when I'm still a crime suspect, why would you do this?" His voice trembled with shame and hope and confusion all at once. Amber walked closer until she was standing right in front of him. She lifted his shaking hands and placed them on her bouquet. Then she whispered her answer, the answer that stunned everyone present. "Because love is not loyalty to your freedom, it is loyalty to your truth. And I know your truth." She looked straight into his eyes. "The world may think you are guilty. Even the evidence may say so. But you told me you are innocent, and I believe you more than I believe fingerprints, police reports, or broken cameras." She took a breath. "Life tried to break you before. I won't let it break us now." A tear slipped down her cheek. "So if the world wants you behind bars, then I will love you behind bars. If the world says you are alone, then I will stand beside you until you are proven innocent." Ethan broke down completely. She turned to the priest. "Please, we are ready." And right there in the outer cell, with metal bars behind them and love shining between them, the priest began the vows. Ethan repeated every word through tears. Amber's voice never wavered, and they were married. The joy that Amber brought into the prison walls felt like sunlight in a place that had forgotten light existed. Every time Ethan looked at the ring on his finger, something inside him softened, something that had been stiff with fear and confusion since the arrest. It was as if the marriage reset his mind. He slept better. He breathed deeper. His thoughts became clearer. And then, 3 days after the wedding, something shifted. He was lying on the thin prison mattress, staring at the ceiling, when a memory hit him. Not suddenly, more like a slow door creaking open in his mind. At first it was vague, just a picture of a locker room at work. Then a hand he didn't recognize. Then a moment he had brushed off as nothing. But now it felt like everything. Ethan sat up quickly, heart pounding. Oh my God! Pieces began to fit together. Things he didn't pay attention to before. Things he assumed were accidents. Things he thought were meaningless. All of them started forming a pattern. 2 weeks before the robbery, the same week his work jacket disappeared, Ethan remembered entering the break room late in the evening to retrieve his lunch bowl. Someone was in the room, a co-worker, Daniel, a quiet man, always polite, always minding his business. Daniel had been startled when Ethan walked in, unusually startled. His hands were quickly shoved into his pockets. He had been standing close to the section where staff jackets were hung. Ethan remembered joking, "Guy, relax, I'm not the manager, oh." Daniel laughed nervously, too nervously, and rushed out. At the time, Ethan didn't think anything of it. But now that memory returned clearly. And something else followed it. A conversation he overheard months earlier. Daniel arguing with someone on the phone. "I said give me time, I will get the access." Access? To what? Ethan never asked, but now his breath caught. Then another memory crashed in. The day after his jacket went missing, Daniel suddenly bought a new phone, a very expensive one. People joked about it, asking if he won a lottery. Daniel only said, "Don't worry, one day you will understand." Those words burned in Ethan's mind now. What if Daniel wasn't talking about a blessing, but a plan? What if he stole the jacket to collect Ethan's fingerprints? What if he used the ID card clipped on it to move around the bank unnoticed? What if he intentionally touched surfaces wearing the jacket, then planted the ID at the crime scene? Ethan pressed his palm to his forehead. His entire body shook. "It was him," he whispered. "Oh my God, it was him." The realization hit him like lightning. Every strange moment, every suspicious behavior, every odd phrase, every missing item, it all pointed to Daniel. He had the access, he had the motive, he had the opportunity, and he had the one thing needed to frame someone successfully: Ethan's identity. Ethan stood up, gripping the prison bars. "I need to speak to the detective, now." For the first time since the nightmare began, Ethan felt a spark of hope, a direction, a clue, a truth that could save his life. And he whispered into the empty cell, "Amber, my love, I think I know who did this." When Ethan told Detective Karim he had remembered something important, the detective was skeptical at first. Many suspects remember things when they are desperate. It wasn't new. But something in Ethan's voice, the urgency, the honesty, the clarity, made Karim pause. They sat across each other again. Ethan explained everything: the missing jacket, Daniel's nervous behavior, the suspicious phone call about getting access, the expensive new phone, and the strange statement, "One day you will understand." Karim's eyes narrowed at that. "Do you have any proof?" he asked. "No," I admitted, "but Daniel has access to everything I have access to, and he was there the week my jacket disappeared." Karim closed the file slowly. "All right, let's look into him." Detectives quietly visited Daniel at work. They asked simple questions, routine questions, but his answers were shaky. His eyes darted, his hands trembled, his story changed twice. Suspicious. They checked his bank records. 2 weeks before the robbery, his account was nearly empty. 2 days after the robbery, he suddenly deposited a large sum of money, far more than his salary. Very suspicious. From there, everything unraveled. Forensic investigators raided Daniel's apartment. At first, nothing. Then, in a hidden drawer, they found Ethan's stolen jacket, neatly folded, with traces of dust from the bank vault. Next to it was a small plastic bag containing gloves covered in Ethan's fingerprints, tools used for the robbery, and Ethan's original ID card. Everything Daniel used to impersonate Ethan. Detective Karim felt his blood run cold. This was it, the proof. Daniel had set Ethan up perfectly. Under interrogation, Daniel broke. He confessed everything: how he fell into heavy debt with a criminal group, how they threatened him, how he needed an inside man but didn't want to be recognized. Ethan was the perfect target: quiet, humble, easy to frame. Daniel admitted, I wore his jacket. I used his ID. I touched everything so his fingerprints would be everywhere. I didn't know they would arrest him this quickly. His head dropped. I'm sorry, but sorry couldn't undo the damage. 2 days later, an officer walked into Ethan's cell. John, pack your things. Ethan panicked. Am I being transferred? The officer smiled. No, you are going home. Ethan froze. Home? You are going home. Your name has been cleared. Ethan's knees buckled. He covered his face and cried. Not the tears of fear he had shed before, but tears of relief, of freedom, of justice. When the prison gates opened, Amber stood there waiting for him, still wearing her wedding ring, still standing tall, still his wife. She ran into his arms before he could even breathe. He held her as if she was the only thing that kept him alive, because in many ways, she was. I believed your truth. Daniel was sentenced to years in prison. Starlight Bank apologized publicly to Ethan. They offered him compensation and reinstated him with honor. But Ethan declined. He didn't want to go back to a place where nightmares were born. Instead, with part of the compensation, he and Amber opened a small therapy and support center, a place for people healing from trauma, injustice, and pain, the same kind of place where they first met. Their daughter grew up saying, Daddy was a hero. Their son grew up saying, Mommy is the strongest woman in the world. And every anniversary, Ethan reminded Amber, You didn't just marry me in a prison cell, you freed me from one. Amber always smiled and replied, That's what love does. He covered his face, sobbing in disbelief. She wiped his tears gently. The place changed, but the promise didn't.